Welcome everybody. And I'm here with my Ista sisters in Amsterdam. We are called the Yoni Gazing Group. So, yeah, and that's also the place. I see there's still people dropping in. Yeah, and at Ista, the International School of Temple Arts, is also the place that I met Ohad for the very first time. Yeah, it's a mystical school, and you could say actually that Ohad is kind of a mystical man, and maybe also the most down to earth man that I know, and at the same time the most mystical. So it's this beautiful combination of polarities of as we're also during this festival talk about the dark and the light and the masculine and the feminine and this. And yes, you can have it all. You can be grounded and you can embody more essences, more qualities, more polarities. And I think for me, Ohad, yeah, you really I fell in love with you when you play your guitar. It's like that, and you're more for me in the kind of light masculine, but you also have this animal in your inside, this dark masculine, and you can really embrace it all. And that's also for me what the International School of Temple Art, ISA, the school really helped me to become a more a sovereign being, to become like, hey, I'm responsible for my own life. I don't have to be a victim, or I just I'm there. So this is the school, and Ohad is from he started as a rabbi. So he got all this ancient knowledge. He's been in books for years, and then he finally started like, hey, maybe I missed something, and maybe that missing something was the eros, was the sensuality, the sexuality. So Ohad's path also went into the sacred sexuality. And for me, when I heard about sacred sexuality, I'm like, yes, finally. Because I love sex. I love to be juiced up. I love eros. It really makes me drunk. I think it's the most natural healing, most natural drugs that we have. So for me to have a spiritual practice and to have eros sexuality in it, for me it was like a revelation, like, finally. So here we are. And I was really shy to ask Ohad to come and to share his being, his knowledge tonight. But he said, yes, if I can, I'd be there. So here we are. So thank you, Ohad, for being here and for joining and and for sharing your being into this world. Yeah, and also here for this evening. Mm. And it's also a beautiful, special evening tonight as the planets Jupiter and Saturn, they're crossing their path. So some people say it's the age of Aquarius is happening now, and I think it's time for the age of Aquarius anyway. So I'm totally up for that. So if you know more about that, also would love you to share that. And I also would love you to talk about the dark and the light, but take it as it comes tonight. Flow as you go. Thank
Sure.
you for being here.
Thank you, Afka, for organizing that. And yeah, so happy to be here and see many faces I know and many faces I yet do not know. Um, yeah, and very humbled to be surrounded with so many beautiful women on the screen. It's like, okay, thank you, God. Um, I want to start actually with what Shaya said as an apology. Shaya, when you started singing, you said it's not so spiritual, but it's true. And this is very interesting that you said it's not so spiritual. What do you mean by that? Not so spiritual. What is spiritual, actually, and what is not spiritual? This division that many people have in their mind um, is one of the symptoms of the illness of our society, actually. This division that we have between things that we perceive as spiritual and things that we perceive as non spiritual. Uh, I believe it comes from the times of church and state and the division between what belongs to God and what belongs to the Caesar in Christianity. And if you kind of think about it, let's make a simple um, thought exercise. In our common culture, between right and left, which is the good part? Say, which is good, which is less, which is right, and which is wrong. You know, it's in the words, right? We take the right and the left. The right is right, and the left is wrong. Um, Between up and down, which one is better? Which one is the best? People want to go down, or people want to go up? They want to go up. So you got the up right. All the other three quarters are not recommended, but it's not the end. Between forward and backwards, which one is good in society? You want to go forward. You don't want to. No one want to be said that, oh, they're getting it backwards. It's like it's wrong. Backwards is wrong. So if you take a sphere, a ball, which is the reality that we live in, because we are all kind of in a bowl, in a sphere, actually our common society relates as good and sacred and right only to 1/8 of the sphere. Only the front, up, right. The left, the down, the back is all negative in some ways. This kind of shows us how narrow our society actually uh, took it, how narrow actually we relate to reality. From the 360 degrees of a ball, we got 1/8, which we say like, okay, this is the right thing to do, the right approach, which means we actually neglect most of reality. And this is it's actually a result of the division that we live in between light and dark, which I want to actually kind of take us through that. It is part of what we go deeper in level 2 in ISTA, but of course we can, start and give a taster of that today. And it's important always to just move our consciousness and our perception through those concepts and feelings, and actually start to reconsider reality, actually. So uh, when we sing a song, uh, we will consider again, is it spiritual or not? And like, what is spiritual? So the song that Shaya you sang started, I don't know this song, it's probably a known one, but I don't know it. But it started with I'm a bad girl or something like that, right? What were the I'm dangerous, right? That was the what were the words? Can you repeat?
I'm toxic.
Mhm.
There's a poison paradise, and you're addicted to me.
Yeah. So these are parts of what we call the dark feminine aspect. Um, but every magic mushroom can say that. This can be the the speech of magic mushrooms and many other, and ayahuasca can say that, I'm dangerous, I'm toxic, and you're addicted to me. I'm and can be, can be dangerous in a good way, because I'm I'm dangerous heaven or something like that. You said, right? Yeah, like dangerous to the ego, dangerous to the illusion that we build around ourselves, dangerous to the stories that are the illusions that we call reality. All this that needs to die in order for a person to actually wake up. The what we usually call spiritual are things that sometimes are fluffy. They're just nice. They're not really more spiritual than uh, entities like that one who sing this song that you opened with. And thank you for opening with this song. Uh, we didn't plan that, uh, but the Great Mystery did plan that. So what I want to suggest is that, in contradiction to the common language of the spiritual world, that is usually around love and light, um, love and darkness are actually good friends. Light and darkness both are necessary. They're necessary for art. Um, any good art would have dark colors, and it actually will make the painting deeper. Any good music will have more dark tones that will also deepen everything. That when you add darkness to any piece of art, it adds depth to it, whether it's literature, poetry, cinema, music, visual arts. In all of those, we use the darkness in order to add depth. And when you use only light colors and light tones, it actually can be annoying. Like it's so limiting. It's like usually it's really like playing the piano only on the high notes, instead of allowing yourself to go through all the notes of the piano, from the bass to the high notes. It's limiting ourselves to part of the scale of colors, instead of, as I called this talk, on the spectrum. Instead of being on the spectrum, which today in our days is like being a little bit um, insane, or something wrong with you and you're on the spectrum, but we're actually all the time on the spectrum. We're on the spectrum, and the spectrum between light and darkness is where we want to learn how to deliver love. Now, for me, spirituality is actually a word that I rarely use, I would say, in my life. I did when as Afka said, I was a rabbi many, many years. I was a person of light, definitely, but something was missing. And as Afka said, yeah, part of what was missing was eros, sexuality, the body, everything that has to do with the body and earth and nature. And nature is sacred. I knew it as a child. I knew it as a child before I became any religious person, because before I became a clergy and a rabbi and a teacher of spirituality, I knew in my bones that nature is sacred. The stones and the plants and the mushrooms and the animals. There is a sacred spirit that moves through everything in nature, and it fills it up. And all you need to do is go out to nature and just allow yourself to be taken by the magic that is in nature. And nature is not love and light. Nature will kill you. Nature, you need to be really alert. Whether you're in the, I grew up in the desert, so if you walk in the desert, you need to know how to find water. And if you don't find water, you're dead in 2 days. And in the jungle, in the desert, in anywhere you go, nature is not nice to you. Nature is real. But this is love, and this is spirit. But somehow we, probably because we're usually not mature in our spiritual um, development, we're still childish. Many of us are childish in spiritual development. Because of that, we are so addicted to kind of embracing mommy um, as a model of spirituality, which is like nice and holding you and caressing you and really nice to you, which is important, of course, but it's just part of the spectrum. So for me, it's not really important if something can be called spiritual. The question for me, from my perspective, is does it serve love? Does it serve love? And how would love be served better and deeper? So if you ask yourself this question, it will many times lead you to understand that sometimes what would serve love are actions that are more harsh, more dark in nature, more dangerous, like the song that Shaya sang in the beginning. Love is not always fluffy. Real love is actually dangerous sometimes, because real love, like when someone loves me, I want them to help me develop. I really want them to help me develop. If they're afraid to offend me and offend my ego, they will always be nice to me. By that, they will not tell me the truth. They will actually hide their truth from me because they're afraid to offend me. How would I learn? How would I fucking learn anything? How would I know how to be real? How would I know how to touch my beloved if she is afraid to tell me the truth about how she feels about this touch and that touch? Is she open for this kind of connection or that kind of connection? People who are afraid to offend each other hide the truth from each other. You cannot be developing if the truth is hidden from you. In order to develop, you need to know the truth, even if this truth is a little bit offensive to your ego. The question is, what do you love more, your ego or God, Goddess, the truth, love itself? So when you are developed, you say like, I'm devoted to the truth. I really want the truth. Please give it to me. Even if it's not so easy for me to hear, please give it to me. And then there are ways to say the truth to each other, to friends, to lovers, to children, to husbands and wives and partners and friends and community members, in a way that is direct, dark, but loving. And this is what matters to me, at least. Does it serve love? Dark love is love that is cutting the bullshit. And we're all full of bullshit. It's like we're machines that produce bullshit day by day. We're just like, like this, we're shitting every day, I hope. And we just produce mind bullshit also all the time. But do you want to be wrapped with that? No, you don't. You want to, wipe your ass. So you need something, you need some love to come and help. We need some love to come and help us clean ourselves from our own bullshit. Dark love is what actually allows us to approach each other with truth that is not buying into someone's bullshit, but cutting through it. Now, many of us, when we received this kind of thing, we got it as criticism, and we were offended so deep, usually by our parents or teachers in school, or peers in our classmates or something like that. But the thing is that it usually didn't come from love. It came from anger. Usually what you got in your past is criticism that comes from anger, from someone being pissed off, usually pissed off for a long time, actually. And this pissed offness is just building and building and building and accumulating and accumulating and accumulating. Then it really becomes toxic. And then when it comes out, when the person is just like angry, there is no love behind the words. It comes with the anger, not of now, it comes with the anger of yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. Sometimes years of anger are just like funneled into this piece of criticism that you got, and your heart feels that was not love. Indeed, it was not love. But there is a way to deliver what we call dark love. And this is part of what we practice all the time. Like when I say we, it's like it's in ISTA, it's ISTA culture. Between the teachers of ISTA, we live this way. And when I hold a community space, it's important for me to demonstrate it and allow people to actually feel that this is possible. It really is possible to deliver dark love that will feel loving. And it will feel loving to the heart. It will feel loving even though the ego might be hurt. But the heart will say, thank you. Thank you for fucking finally telling me the truth. Yes, it hurts my ego, but it feels so good because I feel that it comes from love. And you wouldn't tell it to me unless you actually loved me. You know, when someone tells me dark love truth, they actually risk. They take a risk. They take a risk that I will not respond well to that. They take a risk that I will think that they are a schmuck, that they are against me, that they are not my friends, and so on and so forth. So dark love is actually sometimes a real deep love. Only deep lovers and friends would risk taking this step and actually delivering dark love. And it will still feel, the heart will feel pure love. I want to come back to that later. I hope I will remember. I want to speak about later about the emotional aspect of that and the need to have emotional freshness in order to deliver dark love. But I want to put a period here. Let's take a deep breath for a second. I want to flip to the other page because I see only part of the people. So here you go. I see more of you now. Hi there. Okay. Hello, hello. Um, Dark and light are different frequencies, basically. And they are different from good and bad. And they're also different from light and shadow. In the common spiritual language, which is, partly spiritual, partly taking some vocabulary from psychology and stuff like that. Um, Many times people use the word dark in order to describe bad things. And sometimes they will use the word shadow to describe bad things. Like the what it carries is the value of a negative value. It's bad. And you would many times use the word dark. Oh, they're using dark forces, especially people in the shamanic world will many times will use the word dark forces, as if the dark is bad. But I want to suggest another vocabulary. Dark is not bad. I want to actually touch upon what is bad, what is good and what is bad, and what is dark and what is light, and what is shadow. So for good and bad, I want to tell you a story. It's a Sufi story. It's a beautiful Sufi story that I love. And it goes like this. There was a, a farmer, and he was a poor farmer, and he had one horse and one son that was helping him in the farm. Um, and he was mainly happy, even poor but happy. One day, his horse disappeared, ran away, and disappeared. And all the neighbors came and said to the farmer, "Oh, poor you, how bad is it? Like, what would you do? Your horse was your only horse to work in the farm. What would you do without the horse? Horrible, horrible situation." And the man said, "Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows?" That was his answer. Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows? He worked with his son without a horse. After a week, the horse came back with a horses. How do you say horses in English? There's another mare or something like that, right? There's a like a female horse. He came back home with a beloved, and uh, the neighbors came and they said like, "Wow, lucky you! Look at you! You just doubled your assets. It's like you had one horse and now you have two." And she was even pregnant, so it's like three. It's like amazing. So much you just gained so much in one day. And the man said, "Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows?" So they start working with the old horse and the new horses, and they're working in the field. And one day his son goes to try to do something with a new female horse, and she kicks him and breaks his leg. And now he just lies in bed with a broken leg, and he can't work anymore. Again, the neighbors come and they say, "Oh, poor you, what would you do? You're an old man and your only son is now unable to work, blah, blah, blah." And you already know what the man said. Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows? Some days after, the government decided to go to war, and officers would go through all the villages to collect all the young men to the army. And the officers came through all the houses and took all the young men of the village. And they opened the door of this farmer's house and they saw the boy, with a broken leg, and they said, "You're no use to us, you stay home." And again, You know how it is. All the neighbors came and said, "Lucky you! All our sons were gone to the war." And then the guy said, "Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows?" So that's the story. And of course, it can continue and continue and continue because this is our life. Events happen, and we give events a value of good and bad according to how far we see and what's the picture of reality that we frame in our consciousness. And our picture is usually very limited according to our narrow-minded prediction of the future. When the horse left and the first time, the neighbors could not perceive that this will actually bring another horse, so they thought it's bad. When it brought another horse, this was like, actually it was good. When it broke the leg, it was bad. Then when it saved him from the army, it was good. But the old man just said the same thing. Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows? We don't know. We don't know, and we don't need to know, and we don't need to engage so much in the judgment of is it good, is it bad. It is what it is. It is a missing horse. It is a new horse. It is a broken leg. It is what it is. Is it good? Is it bad? Does it actually matter? It's probably both. And you can take it to any event in your life. You know, I work in the field of sexuality for many years, and relationships, and so often I see people, you know, crying with a broken heart. Their beloved left them or something like that, and how can they live without her or him or whatever it is. And it's like horrible. And then some months after, they meet someone new that is much better for them. And then they said, like, imagine that this other partner that I had would stay with me. That would be horrible. I would miss this one. So it's the same thing with a horse, right? It's like events happen. We might be sad, we might be happy, but it doesn't make it good or bad. It is. It just is. There is the isness of reality that we don't need to attach titles of value of good and bad to them. And when we do attach any value, it's just because according to our little framework of reality, that's what we feel. Basically, to be honest, each of us have some kind of a plan in our head how reality should go, and whatever supports it, we think it's good. Whatever is against this plan, we think it's bad. Like, so we plan to live forever. So whenever we become sick or injured, we think it's bad. Um, it's simple, but in the big scope of things, it's not bad. It is. It just is. You live and then you're sick and then you die, and it's not good. It's not bad. It is. It's that. It's that is happening. Or as my friend David Data, you might know him, is a great teacher, and he has one sentence that I really love. He used to say, "This is as God gets. This moment is as God gets. There isn't going to be any other moment that is going to be more divine than this moment." And that relates to any moment in our life. This is as God gets. Now, most people live in some kind of fantasy and waiting for the next moment. You know, now it's mundane. Now it's shallow. Now it's shitty. And sometime else, I will go to a place and it will be sacred. It will be beautiful. It will be loving. But that's not true. This moment, in the isness of it is, whatever is in this moment is reality, pure reality. You're living now. Now we are in Zoom with each other. This is as God gets this moment. There isn't any other level to this moment. Now this is the fullness of reality. And this relates to any moment in our life. There isn't anything that is less divine than the other thing. The question is, are we ready to perceive it? Is our cognition ready to actually feel the divine powers in this very moment as it is, whether it's pretty or ugly, whether it's light or dark? So, what is light and dark? In the divinity, they are equal. There's light divinity, there's dark divinity. So to say, God is in everything, in the light and in the dark. And there are even verses in the Bible that say that, like it's not any new thing. It's like, it's really, really ancient. It's like light and dark are equal for the divine. But dark and light are just different densities. So everything that in English, it's actually very simple because you have double meaning for the word light. There's light as opposite of weight, of heavy. There's heavy and light, and there is light and dark. Because actually light, it's something that is less heavy, that has less density. Whenever something is more dense, it becomes more dark. This relates to matter. So matter and spirit, spirit like wind is lighter than matter. And of course, in the language, it also relates to the feminine. Matter comes from, in Latin, comes from mother. Matter comes from mother. Matter is related to the feminine, while spirit and light is connected to the masculine, usually. And that created a lot of division and the whole patriarchy that relates, light with the masculine and spirit and good, and feminine with matter and maternity and materialism, and stuff like that. This division is unneeded and untrue. What we are called today, and yes, this day, today, the solstice and the gate of conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn is a very meaningful day for that. But what's happening now on the planet, on planet Earth, in civilization, is a new recognition. And this recognition is of the divinity of the dark, actually, of the divinity of matter, of the divinity of the feminine, of the divinity that is love, and love can be expressed in many, many ways. That also relates, of course, to sexuality. Um, if you think about sexuality, sometimes you love light touch, and really, really light and really gentle touch. But sometimes I believe most of you, maybe not all of you, like to be touched really rough, like to be fucked really good, like to be taken, to be ravished. And someone who is not able to approach their dark side will never be able to do that. Very spiritual people are not able to fuck you really well because they're so spiritual, because they're afraid of their own animal. They're not in touch with their animal body. They're not in touch with their nature. They're actually in war with their nature, with their body. They're trying to control it many times, by the way, by the word tantra. One of the one of the things that I saw in all the many years that I'm teaching sexuality and working in the field is that many times people find a very how would you say sophisticated way to control their body by actually by all kind of tantric methods, using tantra in a way as a way to control sexuality and to make it light and nice and very spiritual, which is good, but it's only half of the good. It's really like playing the piano only on the light keys, only on the high notes. But it can leave a lover very frustrated. You might have a lover that can, caress you and cuddle you, and they can, channel the kundalini through their body and not ejaculate and whatever it is, but they cannot be an animal, and they cannot take you, and they cannot fuck, and they cannot fuck you to God, and you can never surrender to that because you know that they are afraid from their own power. And people that are really making peace with their own sexual power would learn how to embrace it all. Just embrace it all, the light and the dark. The very meditative part of sex, which is beautiful and deep and visionary, and the very animalic part of sex. And even the sex that feels like death. This sex that you feel like, like on very high dose of medicine, that sometimes, if you took ayahuasca or other medicines, that sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm gonna die. That's like, but it's good, it's okay, because it's like there's something like you can feel that in a good sexual occasion also, like, wow, like I don't know if I'm gonna, this is like so much energy is running through this lovemaking that I'm gonna die from this orgasm, but it's okay. Actually, in French, it's called little death, right? Petite mort or something like that. Lila, do I say it right? Um, yeah, good. Uh, um, yeah, a little death. So when you feel, there's love that can feel like death, but it's a good death. To approach it, you need to really make peace with all the spectrum of what you are. And for me, to tell you the truth, it's really many times really weird. I really sometimes stand puzzled. I, you know, I visit many spiritual gatherings, so to say, from, since I'm a rabbi, so from all kind of religious things of, sometimes peace workers bring rabbis and Muslim qadis and Christian priests together to speak about peace, stuff like that. So from like, religious institutes to tantric institutes and whatever it is. And I'm also I spend some good years in academy in research, and I just like I'm puzzled because all kind of methods are basically cutting the human body and saying, oh, we accept that but not that. So you go to academy and it's usually like accept the head but not the heart, and definitely not the belly, and the sexuality has no place. It's just like whatever is logic can come to academy. You go to other places, they will say the heart is everything. The heart is everything. The head, actually suspect the head. And many new age people will say like, the mind is negative, and they're like, oh, the heart, the heart. But many times they don't know how to deal with emotions. What do you do with emotions? Because emotions are not only nice. You have sadness and grief and anger and rage. Emotions are not just happy, happy. They're the whole spectrum of emotions. What do you do with that? So they're confused. And definitely below the belt, what do you do with your balls and cock and pussies? What do you do with that when you want to be a good, enlightened person? So, in most monasteries and religious institutes and academies and most civilized places, no one's genitals is welcome. So, where do the genitals go? First of all, they're sad. They're sad because they're uninvited to the party. The head is invited, the heart is invited, maybe the emotions, usually not. But the genitals are just like dragging there underneath the panties, ashamed. They know that they have no space there. And then, like anyone who's not invited to the party, sometimes they're pissed. So they are dysfunctional, as they call it. They're not dysfunctional. They're functioning very well. They say, "Fuck you. You don't want to use me. You're ashamed. You're ashamed of me. So we don't work with you." And sometimes they just take over, and people become um, dangerous because they do stuff in unconscious way. And how many therapists and gurus and professors and people in power are doing and did and will do all kind of horrible things with their sexuality, using their power over other people, because actually they don't have room to bring their sexuality to the rest of their lives. They don't have integration. And how weird it is, because each of us is a human being. We are a full human being. We all have mind. We all have powers that are beyond the mind, of perception and intuition. We all have heart. We all have emotions. We all have sex drive. This is just to be a human being. And how come that all the methods on the planet almost are cutting some parts of the human being and say, let's not deal with that. This is too dangerous. It's just weird in my eyes. So in ISTA, we created an institution, so to say, that says like, we welcome the fullness of the human being. Please be sexual, please be spiritual, please be intelligent, and please be with an open heart. I mean, and why should it be so difficult? Because we never learned integration. But once we are actually moving in the direction of full integration of spirit and mind and heart and emotions and sexuality, in some ways you can say we become human. That's when we become human. and not just like divided human being cut in all kind of weird ways like a modern painting. So yeah, deep breath. And I want to, I'll look at the chat to see if you want to say something or ask something, or otherwise I want to talk about the emotions, what I said before about the piling of emotions. But I just want to check in with you that we're on the same page and that I didn't lose you on the way, or if anyone has. Yeah, I see you waving there. Thank you. Um, okay, so okay, so I'll continue. If you feel like asking something or wanting me to relate to something, just write it shortly on the chat, and I'll look at it and relate. So emotions. Emotions are important when they are fresh. It's really like vegetables. You can say emotions are like vegetables. They're good when they're fresh, and maybe they're like fish, even more. Like it's good when it's fresh, and it's really toxic when it's not fresh. Um, and the problem with us humans is that many of us don't know how to feel and express fresh emotions. Therefore, what we do is we feel something. You have your partner, and your partner is doing something that makes you go like this, like but you don't do that because you want to be a nice person. So you swallow it, you take it in, and you smile, and you think you're a good partner, you're a good person, and you're just like, you would not criticize him or her, and you just like smile and take it. Where did this anger or upset go? Into your system. And the thing is that it's getting stored there. Emotions are chemicals. From the very simple point of view of biology, whatever emotion you feel has a chemical component of hormones, combination of hormones that are produced in different places in the body and flushing through your blood system. And basically, hormones, by the way, even the word hormone, I don't know if you know, it comes from Greek, ancient Greek, and it means an order. The meaning of the word hormone is an order. It's a chemical order. Hormone is a chemical order that the body produces, and it's an order for um, the organs of the body to move in a specific way. Let's say if you have the emotion of fear, there are specific hormones that are running through your system that creating stress, and and you feel fear, and those hormones are actually telling to your blood system how to flow. So what happens if you have um, let's say cortisol, which is one of the hormones that is um, part of the feeling of fear, it will shut off the blood stream to your inner organs, many of your inner organs, including your sex organs, because it's not important now, and it will flush with blood and oxygen your muscles that are responsible for running away or fighting. This is an order to the body. This is what hormones do. They say like, okay, shut off this system. It's not important now. Being horny is not important when you're running away from a bear. So not important to have an erection now, really. What's important is that you're running quickly and your muscles are strong, so you can, throw a stone and run away and stuff like that. Whenever you're afraid, there are muscles in your body that receive a chemical order to run and fight. If you don't let the body express it, these hormones do not go away. They are stored. And the tension in your body is accumulating. And the same with any emotion, just took fear, for instance, but upset, um, anger, all those emotions that we are afraid to show, sadness, grief, all those emotions are giving different orders to different parts of the body how to function. And we don't show it because we're learned not to show emotions. And they're stored in the body. The problem is that they become toxic to you and also to others. Because what happens next? So you're not expressing, you're upset with your beloved for one time, two times, three times, four times. You become bitter. You close your heart to him or her. Your pussy becomes dry. Your heart is closed. He's feeling, but he doesn't know what he's feeling because maybe he's not so sensitive to your subtleties. So you become even more upset. And then one day he just like whatever leaves his socks on the sofa. um, no big deal by any measure, except that you already were angry 100 times with him, but you never expressed it. And then this little sock on the sofa can create a storm of emotions of like, and you just like lash out at him or her, and this person doesn't know what the fuck are you talking about and what do you want from my life. I mean, why? Okay, I left the sock on the sofa, big deal, I take the sock. It's like, what's the problem with you? And the problem is that you actually didn't express your emotions on the spot. Because if you had expressed your emotions on the spot, when you're accurate with emotions, and that's the thing, we need to learn to be in accuracy with our emotions. When we're accurate with our emotions, something little something little happens, and you allow your body to respond. Now, if you didn't store 100 other angers, it will be a small anger. It will be like, "Phew," something in your body will close up. You will shake your body. You will do something. You will respond. Your beloved will say like, "Hey, what's that?" And you will say like, "How could you do blah blah blah," whatever it is. I'm upset, and he or she will say like, "Oh, thank you." If they're appreciating emotions, they will say, um, "Thank you. That's a great feedback. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll do it different," or stuff like that. And that's it. And it actually was a pure response for a little um, mistake, so to say, or like getting out of the right way. So I do something, maybe I wasn't sensitive to you. You're showing me with your body that you're a little upset. I check with you what happens. You tell me. I was like, oh, thank you. And I correct myself, and no big deal. And then I correct myself. If you didn't accumulate anger of 100 times, now you're very happy. All of a sudden, your body response is fresh and the anger is gone, and you're like, yay, you're like a child that just got a present, and you're like blossoming and happy and juicy again, because this is authentically what you feel when you're fresh. And then I feel like, hey, so great. Basically, from a masculine point of view, not men, but masculine point of view, this is amazing. Like, for a masculine point of view, it's like I want to navigate, and I love, if, computer games even, like, or the thing in the car that I move a little and it says like, okay, I go back, and especially if it gives me then a good kiss or like expression of love, I'm like, yay, I got it right, I got it, like, oops, I got it right. That's It's always a game of actually using the emotions like sensors, actually sensors of where did we go off a little of the road of love. And it's very useful when it's on the spot, and it has no validity when it's not on the spot. Because let's say the car, if the car will beep 100 kilometers after my I lost the last drop of gas, it wouldn't help. I'm already done. I'm stuck in the middle of the desert with no gas. I need the car to beep and tell me, you're out of gas, you're soon out of gas, you're soon out of gas. I need it on time. Then it's valid. Emotions are like that. Emotions, which is our feminine body, men or women, the the emotional part of us is a more of our feminine aspect. um, and we need to feel the emotions and actually to take information, to take data from these emotions. So if I feel fear or upset, if I'm ignoring it, it's really like ignoring um, the signals from your car, or your, if you're a pilot, from your plane. It's not smart to ignore the emergency signals. You want to listen to that, but it needs to be accurate. So the accuracy of emotions, in order to get accurate, many times we need to express and release, because the truth, sad truth, is that many of us have accumulation of years of unexpressed emotions. And it's not only sadness, anger, and fear. Many of us, I believe many of you, definitely me, grew up also with not so much of permission to express joy. Like a little, yes, you can smile, but really be ecstatic of joy? No, that is like a little weird. Who I'm like that. Who else? Like anyone else? Okay, yeah. So yeah, like you didn't want to be weird, or your parents didn't want you to be weird. So emotions to express ecstasy is not okay. So we don't express, and we learn to shut off our system. And it's sad. It's so sad. It's like when you understand, why do you have emotions? I mean, evolution spent millions of years to create mammals with um, the brain that produces lots of the emotions, and with a hormonal system. And it's like, it took millions of years to develop the system of emotions. And then we come like smart asses and we say we don't need that. It's uncivilized to have those emotions, and please block yourself and be civilized. And this civilization that is unrespectful of human totality and emotions as part of it is the civilization that is crumbling and falling apart now. I think what we are witnessing today, especially now, 2020, in the world is the um, shaking of the death ripples of the crumbling of this society, of this civilization. We're in the end of a civilization and in the beginning of the new one. I want to believe that we here on this screen are part of the people who their heart is calling them to create the new civilization. We are the last generations of an old civilization that is unvalid anymore. It created so much suffering for humans, for animals, for the planet, that it's a question, as we know, it's a question if we actually can continue to exist as a species. This civilization is dying. And we do not need to be afraid of what's happening in 2020 and the COVID and and the response of governments to the COVID. They do what they know. They're very miserable because all they know is to control and try to control more. What they know is to get in a battle with enemies, and now they see the virus as an enemy, and they're trying to win the war with the virus. Actually, the virus is not an enemy. This virus is not an enemy. It's part of nature. It's really part of nature. And nature is not always nice, but it's not an enemy. It's not against you. It has intelligence. It has deep intelligence. And we know who is going to win between humanity and nature. It's not a question. The question is only how quick humanity will learn how to live in harmony with nature. That's a question. If we will learn, and will we know how to live in love and how to live in respect, which is part of love. When you love someone, you respect them. When you love nature, you respect nature. You have awe. When you love your lover, you also respect them. When you love your children, you respect them. Respect is part of love. So, question is, will we learn how to respect and how to live in love? So, I want to, yeah, just to tell you, no need to be afraid, not of the virus and not of the poor governments who are doing their best, trying to do what they always did, which is try to control more. It's some really like someone that have a hammer and all they know is how to knock with a hammer, so that's all they do. It's like even if something is not a nail, they still knock it down with a hammer. That's what the governments of the world trying to do now. We're definitely not nails, and they'll do what they do. And what our mission is, I think, not even get in war with them, not to get in the fight at all, but to be devoted, each one in their own way, to create a civilization that love is in the center, that love is what moves us forward and make us inquire deep. What does it mean to love? What does it mean to be in love relationships? What does it mean to love my friend, my child, to love nature, to be in a community of loving people? There's so much to learn and to discover, and it's a beautiful inquiry in my opinion. It's one of those inquiries that worth failing again and again. I learned from one of my teachers that a good question to ask yourself is, what worth failing again and again? What would you do again and again, even if you fail again and again? It's still worth doing it. And for me, one of those things is to create a civilization that is based on love. And of course, to create a civilization, it starts from the people around you, your partners, your children, your neighbors. Um, it's really a down to earth thing. It's not a big idea. It's actually a small idea of how do I love you? You, just the person next to me. How do I love you? And how do I love myself in this relationship between us? And does it need light expression or dark expression of love? And how do I express love, whether it's in the light or in the dark? But what love needs, that's the thing. Any advice on how to start also giving dark love instead of only fluffy love? A question from Jet the Wage or something like that. Um, Probably I don't read your name right. Um, yes, two things. One is ask permission. Ask the permission from the person um, to create a situation this person is ready actually to listen. It's like saying, I want to speak with you. I want to tell you something, give you some feedback. Are you ready for that? Is this a good time for that? So take permission. Do they actually want to listen? And is it a good time? Not just pouring it on them when I feel. And the second is coming from love, um, which means many times, as I said, we come with emotions that are not accurate because, let's say, uh, my wife did something and it makes me angry, and I think she's wrong. But if I am looking actually at my emotional response and I'm willing to be devoted to love and to truth, I would check myself. And I would check if my response to her is really accurate or I'm actually angry because of other times, maybe with her, maybe with my ex-partner that did something like that to me and I'm still angry. Or maybe my mother did something to me and I'm still angry at my mother who did that to me when I was 9 years old. And what my wife did now is actually reminding me of what my mother did to me when I was 9. And I'm going to talk to my wife and be angry at her, but I'm actually angry at my mother. This means I'm not accurate. And it's not coming out of love. So what I do in this case is before I give this um, dark love, because I want it to be love, I will go and express and release my own emotions in my own place. I will run, take some pillows and do what we call in ISTA the 7 tools. So those, some I know here that did ISTA and some probably will do. Um, and so you use the 7 tools, use the tools, and take out of your system. And also you do what we call aspecting, so you actually check who's behind what's happening now. And then I can actually see, like, oh, I'm angry at my wife, but I'm actually angry at my mother. So I'm like beating the pillow and taking out of my system all my anger at my mother, done. Then I could come to my wife and say like, hey, I still want to speak with you about something. But then I will not overload her with anger that doesn't belong to her. It's my 9-year-old child that is still angry at his mom. Got it? So to be accurate is really, really important. And that's why we emphasize so much in ISTA the emotional release tools, because we need to become accurate. Take away from our system all the emotions that are still just toxicity in our system, and are not serving us. And then it comes with love. And dark love, when it's love, it feels like love. That's the important thing. It feels like your friend or partner is saying something, cutting through your bullshit and saying something so truth and so loving. If it doesn't feel like love, you might want to check with yourself also. Maybe they are not ready to receive, but maybe also I actually, to be honest, maybe I didn't bring myself so pure to the game. Maybe I brought some old stuff that doesn't belong to the picture. Okay, I think kind of we're getting close to the end of our time together. I want to see if there is any. We use the tools tomorrow. Good. Um, if there is anything else that you guys want to say or ask or respond. Shadows. Yeah, I didn't touch on shadows. Well, it's too short, but I will just say the title. So shadow is anything that is not in the light of consciousness. Anything that we are unaware of, we call shadow. It's taken from depth psychology, from Jungian psychology. And Jung himself took it from mystical methods that existed before him. But shadows are aspects of ourselves that are not illuminated by the light of consciousness. The tricky thing is that many times our beautiful gifts are also in the shadow. It's not only our mistakes and our, bad. We already know there's no bad. Bad is very uh, dependent on the frame of reference. But it's not only the dark aspects of ourselves. Someone can be denying their gentleness, their fragility, their super intuitive self, and that would be in the shadows. And by being in the shadows, they are not aware of that. And because it's in the shadows, what happens to shadows is that they become monsters, uh, so to say. Things that we're not aware of are growing in our subconsciousness, and they're threatening us, and we are afraid of those parts of us that we know exist there. It's like, you have a closed door of a cellar, and you don't know what creatures live in the cellar. And whenever you hear something walking there, you're afraid it's a big monster. It might be just a cat, but the fear of the unknown creates the monsters in our psyche. So shadows, many times we reject our dark to the shadows. Many times we reject our superpowers actually to the shadows. It's another aspect that actually exists in our shadows, is anything that society was not so cool with. So Anything that your parents didn't allow you to be is basically in your shadows. And it might be your super sexy, beautiful, charming part, as well as your dark bitch, as well as your fairy. I don't know. Each person has their other parts in the shadow. It's important to bring shadows to light, but it's also important to know that dark and shadows are not the same. Okay, I think it's good for today. Mm. Love seeing you guys, and especially the all the people there in Malta and Gozo. Love you so much, and it's like so good to see you guys, and Amsterdam crew that we
Yay!
were together just not so long ago. So sweet to see you all.
Ohad, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you so much also to putting it in perspective in the whole spectrum. Yeah.
Look who came now. Just ran
Oh.
away. Black cat.
And it's beautiful because tomorrow we will do the emotional release tools in the afternoon, and then the evening Raffaello will go deeper into the bitch, into the dark feminine shadows.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's perfect, and this is perfect start of, yeah. Thank you so much, and it's such a joy to listen and to learn from you.
Thank
And we were all here, we were all like listening really careful. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you well.
you. Yeah, dankjewel. Yeah.
Thank you well. Yeah.
You. Yeah, thank you, Afka, for putting it together.
Mm.
Yeah, a joy to see you all. I hope to meet those that I haven't met yet in some event.
I'm gonna bring them to Ista one day or another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so
Bring
much.
bring love to the world.
And maybe it's good to know that for everybody that Ohad is writing a second book, but he wrote a first book. It's called Kadesha,
The
and
first one's called Kadesha. Yeah.
yeah, and to me this book was really like, wow, it's about the old temples, but also how the high priestess used sacred sexual uh, sex in the temples. It's wow, I really really, I love to read it. So if you want to read it, you can just buy even the ebook, I think, on
Yeah.
bol.com.
On Amazon.
Yeah, and I also have to reveal that Ohad is a very good musician. So he has also, under his name Ohad Pele, his own songs on Spotify and on SoundCloud. So
Yeah.
if you want to listen, yeah.
Yeah, it's Spotify. Thank you. Yeah, Kadesha is a series of books of historical novels. So the first one is in English. The second one is coming soon in Hebrew, and probably in some months will be in English as well. And the second one is definitely dealing even much more with the shadows,
Mm.
um, and some dark aspects of sexuality as well. It's historical, but it's a novel. And also another thing I don't know if you know actually is that I finished, and it's soon be printed, a deck of cards, of shadow animal cards. So I
Oh.
worked with all the animals that people are actually like there, cockroaches and cats and
Mm.
spiders and yeah, all those that, and mole. Everybody admire lions, but not hyenas, right?
Mm.
We have preferences in the in the animal kingdom, because some animals we project our shadows on. So that is like a very rich field of exploration. I created a deck of cards, and yeah, you will know about it, but it's soon be printed as well.
Mm. Looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe
Okay.
a last note for tomorrow, as we're gonna do the emotional release tools, make sure you have a good space with lots of cushions. I will tell more about it tomorrow. See you there. See you at 3 or maybe 7:15 for yoga if you want. Thank you again, Ohad. It was a pleasure.
Bye, beloveds.
And thank you, Petra, for
Yeah,
being the technical support. And thank you, Shaya,
for the
for
music.
playing
Music.
guitar, music. Ah, yeah, you could play a little bit more now if you want. Thank you, Petra.
Kijk, heb ik er zitten bij deden. Oh, Brian zit er ook.
Oh, dat is fijn. Kijk nou. Oh, girls. Oh.
Was stil moeten?
Mm.